So apparently yesterday was the most depressing day of the year. But apparently this is also not true, just a clever marketing ploy. The winds blues, however, are real, and today I talk about 3 things you can try to mitigate them so you can continue to thrive, even when it's freezing cold outside and you just want to sit under a blanket and watch Netflix. Hello and welcome to the Happy Thriving Mums podcast, the show that talks about the simple actions busy mums like you can take to prioritise your own happiness, health and fitness. And it doesn't stop there. This show also includes amazing stories from inspiring women who help others to be the best version of themselves. Because if you feel great, you thrive, and so does your family. Let's get started. Hello, how is everyone? I hope you've had a great week. This week I am talking about how for many, January and the winter months can be difficult to navigate, and I'll be suggesting some ways to keep those winter blues at bay, or at the very least, lighten the mood a little bit. So we are now, at time of recording, 4 weeks after Christmas, thereabouts, 3 weeks into January. And if we use the astronomical calendar, the calendar that tracks the movement of the stars and is linked to the rotation of the Earth, we have until the 20th of March for winter to end. However, great news, if you want winter to end sooner, I suggest you work on the meteorological calendar, which splits the months into seasons, as in this calendar, winter ends a month earlier on the 28th of February. Fascinating how differences in opinion can play a role here. Whatever you choose, we cannot argue that this time of year brings dark evenings, dark mornings, and unfortunately, many of us see very little natural daylight. It can really affect the way that we feel, affect our mental health, and affect the ability for us to cope on a regular day. Especially as a parent, this can be quite challenging. January can be a tough time. I've always thought myself quite lucky because as a PE teacher for so many years, I've always been able to get out in at least a little bit of natural light each day. Although embracing the elements in winter can be really challenging, particularly when teaching something like cross country to 14-year-old girls. There's challenges there, not just of weather, as I'm sure many of you can relate to. Others who have jobs which are much more desk-based and much more inside-based can really struggle with this lack of light. So this episode has been released on the 21st of January. Yesterday was the third Monday in January, which is often regarded or labelled as Blue Monday, which is apparently the most depressing day of the whole year. This term was made by a psychologist, Dr. Cliff Arnold, in 2004, and he supposedly identified a mix of different factors which attribute to this idea of Blue Monday, this day, the most depressing day of the year. So he talks about how the weather, debt, monthly salary, time since Christmas, time since failing our New Year's resolutions. If you think back to last week's episode, I talked about this. Low motivation levels and the feeling of a need to take action can all contribute to this idea that at this time of year, people can just feel downright miserable. And on the Monday, the third Monday in January, be feeling at the lowest for the whole year. I mean, looking at these factors, you can well and truly appreciate why they all contribute to this idea of Blue Monday. However, as I was looking into this, I was doing some research, it's actually come to light that Blue Monday is not a real thing at all. The term is not actually backed by scientific evidence that on this particular day, most people are at their lowest or feeling depressed on this year. It's the most depressing day of the year. It was an idea which was conceived by a PR company, which then I think lots of different companies then kind of like lean into to try and encourage us to book holidays, to buy things that make us feel a little bit better. It's not great, really. So Blue Monday is not a real thing. Something that is very real though, and especially at this time of year, is SAD syndrome, seasonal affective disorder. It can also be known as winter depression, and it can affect many people. The difference between SAD syndrome and depression is that the symptoms linked to SAD syndrome are more so there in winter. there are shown during seasonal affective disorder that some people can have the flip reverse and actually feel low during summer and feel better during the winter. But for the majority of people that suffer from this, it is those winter months, those dark winter months across a time period where people can feel low. If you feel like this at all, I really suggest that you go and speak to a GP. So if you think you've got the feelings of SAD syndrome or any of the symptoms, or you're struggling to cope, go and see your GP, because there's lots of things that they can suggest and help you with which can help you get through this tough time. So the symptoms of SAD syndrome can include things like persistent low mood, lack of energy, loss of joy in doing kind of like those everyday activities that you used to love doing or you do love doing at other times during the year, wanting to sleep more when you crave carbohydrates, or you have difficulty in concentrating, to name but a few. So although these symptoms are strongly associated with SAD syndrome, and they can be associated with depression as well, these things we can often feel on a daily basis as a parent. We can feel this at different times of year, different times of the month, or even during different times during the day. They can affect us, they can affect our partners, and they can affect our children. And therefore, it's really important to try and take action for everybody to mitigate them, especially at this time of year, to give ourselves a chance of actually feeling like we can take on this time with aplomb and have success and enjoyment through it. And I know for many, some people do actually really like this time of year. I actually quite like winter. I know I feel a bit of an anomaly in saying that, and some people just can't believe it. I really like wearing big, thick jumpers. I do like kind of the warmth of being inside, but I also love those beautiful chilly days when it's so sunny outside, but it's really frosty. I mean, we had a really cold patch recently, which was actually lovely, and I like the seasonal changes. For me, I don't mind it. I think maybe I'm a winter baby. I was born in February. Maybe there's something to do with that there. But I do realise and acknowledge for many people that at this time of year, the winter months can seem quite tricky. And so we need to try and help each other to navigate through them so that you can feel good and that you can take on each day with a fresh kind of perspective, with some joy, and try to kind of live it in as positive a light as possible. I think for some people, the pressure of a new year is too much. The idea of a new year, a new you, can be so unhelpful. So with this kind of combined with this idea of Blue Monday, which gets talked about a lot in the media, on social media as well, it can lead us into a self-fulfilling prophecy that we should be feeling particularly glum and down on this particular day in January. And even throughout the month of January, lots of people do refer to it as a kind of tricky month. So maybe we can flip this. Maybe we can try and think of this in a different ilk. As I said, I'm not casting any shade on people that feel down during this month. It is completely acceptable. It's completely something that happens. But it's how we can navigate it that we can really get through it. I think as a mum as well, I don't particularly want to instill the idea that there is this idea of Blue Monday and that is a kind of down day that everybody should be feeling. It can become a self-fulfilling prophecy, and I don't particularly want that for my children. I don't want my kids to think, oh, January is a sad month, or oh, this particular day is a sad day or a down day. I'd much rather kind of talk to them about it and say, yes, some people feel like this, some people don't, but we can help each other and we can come through this. So what can we do to try and go against the grain of social media and the media in general talking about these ideas? I think I'm largely a positive person, and I really believe that this is where we need to be turning inward and listening to what we really need, rather than think what we should be doing, making all these New Year's resolutions, trying to be a new version of ourselves. If you want to start the year all gung-ho and go and change many facets of your life, I'm all for it. I believe in dreaming big and pushing yourselves out of your comfort zone. I try to think what's the best that can happen rather than what's the worst that can happen, which helps me to try and move forward and live in kind of more of an elevated setting. But if you are actually thinking at this moment in time, all I really want to do is sit under a duvet and watch Netflix cuddled up on the sofa, I actually think that is a win too. We need to think about what we need. I mean, a day of sitting on the sofa watching Netflix cuddled up is a dream for me. Like, I never do anything like that. But to actually do that and give ourselves permission to do that, wouldn't that be nice? And maybe that is just the thing that you need to do. But it's if you need to do that, or you feel that you need to do that on a regular basis, then that's kind of like an alarm bell where you think, actually, there's something that might be underlying here, or there might be something a bit more serious that I need to talk with somebody about and try and address and move forwards. Maybe you're actually somewhere in the middle of these two extremes, in the middle of getting out of the traps first and facing the world head on, or in the middle of not wanting to do anything. Maybe you just want to find a great starting place to approach the rest of the year or month or day or whenever, and that is just fine. I believe that we shouldn't follow how we are meant to feel, like we should feel depressed on Blue Monday, or that the January or the winter months such as January are dull and dark and actually we feel unmotivated. Take time to tune into yourself. I know as a mum, finding the time to do this can be really, really hard, but it could just be 5 minutes. 5 minutes of really thinking about what it is you need. Take 5 minutes less on your phone, grab a pen and write down how you're really feeling and how you might want to approach this moment in time. Whatever you choose, whatever your route, if you're feeling a bit stuck, I would love to help you. I've got 3 small things here that you can try to beat the January blues, if you have them, or just try something slightly different to try and move forwards and make the best of every single day. So, firstly, I suggest you take some time to rest. I really love Donna Ashworth, the writer, and within her book, Growing Brave, she talks about January and she talks about rest. And I just want to read a little bit of what she's written. I always felt January was the calm after the storm, a time to rest, recoup and regenerate. Let your mind have no fixed thoughts of all you should and must be doing. Instead, make the most of the miniature around you and be mindful of all the tasks that fight falsely for your attention. She then goes on to say, resting is doing. Resting is doing. I mean, this was an eye-opener for me. I have never thought of resting as doing. I've only ever thought of resting as doing nothing. And I have always therefore felt that I am awful at resting. I am awful. I always feel I should be doing something. I always feel that I should be doing a chore, or I should be doing the laundry or doing some work. I never ever think of this idea of rest and I should be doing it. I know it's something I need to work on. So the thought of doing resting, or the thought that resting is doing, to me was enlightening. I guess it's kind of linked to this whole idea of giving yourself permission to have time for yourself and giving yourself actually what you need. And this really helps you to thrive. So my first suggestion is, if you want to take some time to do nothing in January, and this is going to make you feel great, do it. Obviously, I'm not saying relinquish all those responsibilities that you have to kind of get yourself to work, to take the kids to where they need to be, to looking after everybody or yourself even. But do take some time to do resting. Think about what you actually want to do with the days, the weeks, the months ahead, and use January as this time period to actually get ready for the next steps. Or, as some people say, get ready for your next season. People can, I think it's quite, trendy to talk about seasons of your life and this season of time. So maybe this is just a season for resting. Maybe January is a time to kind of reflect rather than hit the ground running after the chaos of Christmas. Who knows? But do take some time to rest. My second idea for you to try to get rid of the winter blues is to meet up with a friend. The charity The Samaritans adopt a different approach to Blue Monday. They now suggest that to kind of get rid of this idea of Blue Monday and treat the third Monday in January as this idea of Brew Monday. They state feeling low isn't just something that happens on Mondays or a random day in January. It can happen whenever. So out with the blue and in with the brew. And I love this idea. I think protecting our mental health as mothers is key. It's key to our well-being, and it's key to that of those around who look up to us and need us in their lives. But this can be really hard, especially with the daily challenges that we can face in family life. And that for the fact in winter, things can seem a little less light. But we can take steps to mitigate this. Connecting with others is a very powerful thing to do. I know that we do it daily with our children and our partner and those around us. But how often are these connections rushed or fleeting or not fully engaged? I know I can be guilty of this, especially in the mornings. The school run is such a rush. I'm not sure of how much quality connection I'm giving in those moments when I'm trying to get 2 children dressed and out of the door for school. But just taking that little breath and giving yourself that little extra, even if it's just a minute, to maybe say something nice or friendly or a joke or have some fun, it can be so important. So this idea of Brew Monday, or doing it a brew, taking a brew, having a brew with anybody, a friend, whenever you can, taking the time to sit down with someone you love to hang out with, have a chat, is so good for you. And you can do this any day, any time. And actually, it is quite a magical thing. It gives you such a different perspective of life and moving forward. The third idea, and this is always my go-to, is to get outside and try and do some exercise. And if you can do exercise in natural daylight, that is even better. Just taking 10 minutes a day to go outside and move can be so powerful. As you know, I've talked about this so many times. Exercise for me is the biggest thing that can lift my mood and pick me up when I'm feeling down. If you can combine this with natural light, it can help increase your serotonin levels and your endorphin levels, which can improve your mood. And it makes you feel more connected with the outside world. It makes you see the bigger picture of what is going on around you, and it can really energize you and help your coping mechanisms to make you feel better and be able to really go about your day in a much more positive way. I mean, you could even combine it with that brew and meeting a friend. Go for a walk, grab a coffee on the way, and kind of do it all together. That's like a 2-for-1 package, which is unequivocally going to try and pick you up and make you feel much, much better. I really hope that you've enjoyed listening to this episode, and I really hope that January has been kind to you so far, and that you have also been kind to yourself and have tried to give you what you need rather than thinking about what society suggests we should be doing at this present moment in time. If you've enjoyed this episode, I would love you to click follow so you never miss one. And I really look forward to talking to you next week. I hope you have a great week. Thank you for listening.